In the last 90 days, I've gone through one of the craziest and most transformative experiences of my life. I went to therapy not for 1, 2, or 3 sessions. It was 90 days in a row. Looking at myself in the mirror, questioning everything I believed in, and having to talk about the problems in my life on a regular Tuesday at noon. In this video, I'm going to show you everything that changed in my life and talk about some things I learned during this process. And why did I decide to go to therapy? I remember it was something that had already crossed my mind. Seeing other people talking about it, including people around you, has a big influence, and that's even something I learned there. If you spend time with 5 idiots, you'll become the 6th. So if you're with people who say psychologists and therapy are for crazy people, you'll start to think the same way. Obviously, you'll end up thinking the same way or just putting it off, but there's also the other side, right? In my case, the people around me say, hey, going to therapy is good. I've been thinking about it since last year, but at no point did I have that spark to say, damn, I'm going to do it. I started doing it because, you know, unfortunately we were almost getting relegated, so I needed someone to talk to about my stuff, man. But I remember it started at a time in my life when, man, I was working like crazy. For those who don't know, I'm a video editor and content creator. If you want to earn money making content, the link is in the description. I have a little course where I teach you guys, all right? But check it out soon because you have 5 minutes to buy it, man. Go, go, go. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. Just kidding. This is called a marketing strategy. I learned it from my psychologist too, okay? But I remember it was a time, man, when I was already working from Monday to Friday, and when the weekend came, I would add 3 more days, but I was forgetting the good side of living. I used to say, damn, it's been a month since I've seen anyone. I don't do anything. I'm just here editing, and let's go for another month like this, right? And remember, you don't need to have a reason to go to therapy like, oh, this happened in my life. I really have to go now, for real. It's something I've been doing for a while. I think everyone should do it. Whether your life is good, calm, or not, I think everyone should do it. Man, that's when you start digging and think, damn. Now everything makes sense, man, and the only time I had contact with therapy was when I was a kid. I actually did it, you know, for a few reasons. It was different. The psychologist would bring a toy and say, hey look, while playing I'd casually mention, yesterday my teacher hit me, but it's fine, let's play. I'm just kidding, but maybe we shouldn't joke about that. Sorry, I was immature. I bet many watching feel the same way, thinking I might need something, but I don't know what. But you keep putting it off, keep thinking about it, stalling, stalling, stalling. Man, just go, just do it. If you have insurance, do it for free. If not, then you'll have to pay 1,000 reais, okay? Just 2 words from my psychologist cost 20 each, so imagine how much I paid just to feel better. Did you think about it? Yeah, right? It was really worth it, and I remember that when I thought, damn, okay, I'm gonna do therapy, I'm gonna have to look for a psychologist. Obviously, I had some expectations. Well, obviously, my first expectation was like, what is this? To be less crazy in the head was basically for me to stop daydreaming, because like, sometimes my mind created things that weren't really happening, so I aimed to clear my thoughts, you know? And a cleaner plan than just being on that roller coaster. After all, life is a roller coaster. And as you can see here, it's well represented. Look, me getting less crazy in the head. This photo is mine, okay? For those who don't know, I just took it a little while ago. The second thing is knowing how to deal with problems in daily life, not making wrong decisions. Knowing what's best for me is important. Sometimes you're with people and make decisions from their perspective, not yours. It's about knowing how to deal with that. If something happens in my daily life, I just decide to do it and take action. My next expectation was not knowing how to speak, but I didn't know what that would be like. You know, man, I thought I would just show up, sit on the couch and be like, okay, now I'm going to talk about my problems. How does this thing work? I'm going to show up on a Thursday at noon, get there and just start talking about my problems. Man, how do I even do that? And I think the highest expectation I had too, man, was to become a greatest of all time. And how did I choose the psychologist to do, you know, this brainwashing on me? I began searching Google for the best psychologists nearby, but soon realized the results looked more like Tinder. You know how it is, it shows up and you say, no, I didn't like this one or that one. I'm just being rational, not criticizing people in psychology. Just as there are good and bad video makers, there are also good and bad psychologists. Every field has people who don't do their jobs well, so we need to be cautious, especially with psychologists. It's different from a photographer simply doing poor work. You saw it and said, wow, then you go there, but the person didn't get you and did something wrong. You start blaming yourself, thinking maybe my problem is so big that not even a psychologist can help. So I did the best thing, which was to go by recommendation. That's something I even tell people who want to start. It was a recommendation from a relative, so that's the best thing, because when you see a recommendation like, this person has already been treated, they're getting better, so I'll do it too. So for anyone who wants to start doing it, man, go by recommendation. That's the best thing you can do. And for those who are in doubt, that's right, my microphone is my wallet. Look at what we have here, sucker. That's how I got the contact from a recommendation, you know? From a relative, I messaged a woman. So the first thing I asked was like, are you a Corinthians fan, a Palmeiras fan? How does it work? I need to talk about my Timão, man. Imagine going to the psychologist and she says, but Timão lost to Palmeiras. Verdão is ours. Are you kidding? I would just... I respected it, but once I got her contact, I messaged her right away. Hey, how are you? I want to schedule an appointment. I wasn't sure what else to say. It was kind of like, man, I'm gonna message her saying I've got a little problem in my head and I'm a man, dude. She gave me the available times, so I set it for Thursday at noon. That morning I felt great with no worries, but at noon I had to start searching and got frustrated. Let me think about what to say and remember the problem. When she sent the price, I told her, wow, miss, I can't, I'm broke. I wondered how I'd get the money. Then came the B. How will I pay for this therapy? There are two options, scamming or investing money. But scamming is a crime, right? We arrived at the first session. I greeted her. Hi, how are you? I'm Canal MARVIN. Nice to meet you. She was a fan and took a picture. Just kidding, guys. That's when my expectations were shattered, since it's just a conversation. I thought I'd get there and, man, I swear to you, this is a professional thing. I thought I'd just get there and start talking about my problems, but man, it's so much better because it's just a conversation. It's like you're having a talk with a friend. But the difference is that the psychologist will touch on points that no one else would. She'll be like, no, but why did you do that? You know you're acting this way because of that, right? And as you keep talking, my God. As we talked, she learned more about me and asked why I was there. My reason was the last video comment, he shaved his head but didn't shave his armpit. Impressive. Shout out to the crazy guy. Your comment made me see a psychologist. If you want a shout out in the next video, leave the most creative comment related to this one and I'll consider you. That day she said something unforgettable. She asked, why do you think people go to therapy? I answered, to help solve problems, I guess. Then she replied, what's the difference between telling a problem to your psychologist or to your friend? So she explained that when you tell your problems to other people, they'll solve them their own way. She said she's going to give me the right answer. You know? Not in a universal way, obviously. If I go there and say, hey, I killed someone, she won't just say, well, if it's fine for you, it's fine. That day I arrived. I didn't know if I was supposed to lie down on the couch like that, you know, lie down on the couch and say, doctor, I don't know what to do. But no, man, I just sat there and talked face to face. And if she said anything bad about Corinthians, I would have had to say something. And along with that first day, I'm going to tell you the first lesson I learned from therapy. Remember, I'm not trained in anything. I haven't studied anything. I'm just saying things I heard her say. But what I heard is that there's no right answer, only yours, man. Therapy is about realizing that, like, there's no such thing as right in the world. You know, like, oh, you're right, you're wrong, you're right. But there, it's about you figuring out what's right for you. You get it? So like sometimes my psychologist says things to me that like are right for me, but if she said them to someone else, man, it wouldn't fit well, you know? And that's something, man, that I learned there and it did me a lot of good. I used to compare myself to others a lot. I'd see someone succeed or fail and think I'm doing this, he's doing that, but I realized that wasn't right. She doesn't give you a map, she gives you a compass, but the problem is that sometimes you just keep spinning that compass around and you don't get anywhere. The only thing she said that was for sure is that Corinthians is the greatest of all, you know, the champion of champions. I remember when she said that, I said, no, hold on, that's not just for me, that's for everyone. She said, no, really, 30 days doing therapy? I'm here, as you can see, in my new big red place, and when it hit 30 days, it's crazy because my routine feels like it's completely different because you start to see where the attitudes you're having are coming from. I used to act a certain way and thought it was normal because I was used to it. It wasn't until she pointed it out and explained why that I realized it. During those 30 days, I'd do things automatically thinking they were normal, but afterward, I'd realize I only did them because of what she said. It was just like that. I had therapy every 15 days, but she says some things that you remember all day long and all that. She says a little phrase, man, just 5 words. You'll spend the whole month tripping over that. So that's how it was those first 30 days. Man, it was already a huge difference because when I acted, I would say, man, I realized that I'm doing this because of all of this. There was something behind it, you know? There he goes, guys, I have to say it, there he goes. I'll give you an example, man, it's kind of a lame example, but it works. When I was younger, I was about 9 or 10 years old, I was sleeping and then a mosquito got into my ear. A mosquito got in at 3 a.m. buzzing around and I reacted fast. Now I'm more relaxed, but until 2 years ago, I always covered my ear to sleep because of that childhood experience. And this happens with everyday situations, with things you deal with relationships with people. You start acting a certain way just because it happened in your childhood. But there are some things I don't understand, like for example, what she said. Man, if you accidentally poop at someone's house, how are you going to deal with that, you know? Basically, that's what she talks about. It's exactly this kind of thing, difficult situations. And as I went through the 30 days, one time my aunt asked, so have you cried yet? In therapy, I would say, cry? Man, I'm a man. Moments like that started to happen. Man, when you try to say something, you just can't, you freeze. And the good thing about my psychologist, right, is that she studied psychology, thank God, so she knew how to solve the problem. So she would ask, what do you feel about that? And I would go, it's not that, it's this, it's that, I don't know. And I would get stuck, but she could tell by the way I acted, she could figure it out and say, it's because of this, this, and this, man. She would take the words right out of my mouth, you know? I didn't have to say a word. I'd just arrive and stay silent. Today, can you guess what I want to talk about? There was the first time when a tear rolled down from this eye. That's right, guys, men do cry. Yeah, but when she mentioned Corinthians, I just couldn't handle it. It was tough. When these moments happen, you realize it's worth it, since until then, Mano hadn't really affected me emotionally. For me, I was paying 100,000 Rs and felt like my money was just disappearing while my mindset stayed the same. Since we discussed tough sessions, I want to share the second lesson I learned. One of my biggest problems was that most issues I faced were always related to that damn cell phone. We spend 5 to 10 hours a day on this thing, and that's what really hurts us. It's wild because I used to tell my therapist I don't have time or know what to do. But when you go to sleep at the end of the day, you spent more than 5 hours on your phone, and then you say you don't have time. Oh no, my life is too busy. I don't have time for much to relax or whatever. But then you see the person is on their phone for 5 hours. I'm an example of that, always on Instagram, TikTok, and not to mention the comparisons. You know, man, social media, it's all so fake, man. It's all lies. You know, that stuff doesn't exist, man. That's nothing. If you toss a phone with Instagram open into the river, the phone breaks, but your life stays the same. I used to say I didn't have time to think, yet I spent 5 hours daily on my phone. She said I was just too lazy to think. I took that personally. Okay, therapist, I did, okay? But my second tip that I learned is stay away from your phone, man. That's what's gonna bring you most of your problems. You know, do other things, do other activities, read a book. For us who like sports, go to the gym. That day when I teared up when she mentioned Corinthians, I went back home feeling purified. Man, I went back with the feeling like, man, I think I'm becoming a normal human being. That was basically it. 60 days doing therapy, I had already completed more than 50% of the challenge, and I admit that the 60 days were totally different from the first 30. Because in the first 30 days, I started to notice why I was doing it, but by 60 days, it felt like I started to help myself. I would catch myself in situations where I knew I was going to act a certain way, and I changed the way I acted, you know? Let me give you an example. Like, man, in traffic, I'm an anxious guy. I started calling myself Tomato. Now, if someone comes in front of me driving at 10 km per hour, I'm going to honk. I'm just kidding, guys. It's just a joke. But before, I used to get really mad. Like, if I was walking down the street and there was a guy in front of me, I'd think, this guy is in my way. Walking at 10 km/h, it's easier to just walk. So why not sell the car? Lately, I'm better at self-control, especially when I know I'll act in ways I don't want. I say, wait, take a breath and think, maybe this guy's having a tough day or is busy. I remember my psychologist called this the fight or flight moment. You know, it's something like that when you're in that situation, like, am I going to act the way I always have, or am I going to, you know, change this situation? That was just an example, you know, it's not just that, right? I didn't just stay there with my psychologist. I get really angry at people who drive 10 kilometers per hour. I started paying more attention to my actions and making changes. We're not robots, so I still mess up. But you start to notice and act differently because you know where that reaction is coming from. You know why you're acting that way. And then when you take that control, when you have that kind of self-control, like, I'm doing this because of the past, you start to change the future. So you start to change the way you react. Man, that's really cool. When this started happening in my life, I said, man, that psychologist really deserved my 100,000 Rs, huh? By the way, I want to share another lesson I learned, which is basically that your childhood shapes who you are. I learned that everything you do nowadays, you learned in childhood. Like, I don't know, trying to please everyone, being afraid to make mistakes, or even wetting your pants. These things I do in my daily life come from childhood. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't try to please everyone. So it's proof that it's not like you go to a therapy session and you're going to get better, you know? You're going to get there and she's going to say, no, your problem is this, this, and this, that's it. I used to think it was like that, okay? I didn't expect to spend over a month there and spend so much money. For my mental clarity, as the day goes on, you notice it, and as I said, build a stronger bond. As time went by, I started telling her more things. I started feeling more comfortable sharing things with her. I remember that in the beginning, I was a bit embarrassed to tell her some things. Man, that's normal, obviously, but I used to think, man, I've never seen this woman in my life. She's a therapist, but she's not going to find out that I still crap my pants these days. So the day would get stuck. But then, over time, you get to know the person. She starts sharing some of her stories too. You share yours, you start to open up, and then I started telling her more things and felt freer to tell her everything. Man, now I tell her everything, which is better because talking helps her understand me and helps me understand myself. You see, there's a lot of understanding from just one conversation. Some people even disliked what I just said. After 90 days of therapy, I finally put the microphone in the right place, right? I spent the whole video using all sorts of random objects as a microphone. By the way, comment below which objects I used as a microphone and all that, just so I know if you guys are paying attention or if you're just looking at my handsome face and my shiny bald head. And I'm here to tell you that 90 days of therapy have completely changed me, who I am today. Like I said, because in the first 30 days, I started to see how I acted. In the first 60 days, I started to change how I acted. And then after 90 days, man, seriously, it's a whole different life. A whole different life, because nowadays I'm getting to know myself so much more. I'm really getting to know myself, you know? I know that soon I might start feeling a certain way, so I just don't let myself yourself. Go there. Obviously, I'm not a machine. I'm not a robot. I'm still a human being. I still make mistakes. I still get angry, you know. People are going to watch the videos and think that Marcos is a perfect human being, man. He did 90 days of therapy and changed completely. He must be the greatest of all time now. I'm not saying I'm perfect or know how to handle all emotions. I'm still human, you know. I still say, man, you see me waking up at 5 in the morning in the video and you think it's always like that. Today, for example, I woke up at noon and I'm going to talk about some things that have changed for me. Like, for example, at the beginning, I said I started therapy because of work. I was a guy who never had any rest. When I had time to rest, I used to say, no, man, I'm wasting time. I need to make more money. I don't know what. And then I would go and get more work, fill every free hour of my day with work. Not anymore, man. Now, when the weekend comes when I can, man, I like to just chill, you know, lie down with my girl, relax, watch a movie. What changes is the way you see things and especially the problems in your life. You realize everything happens as it must, and that's it. Now, I think it's all good, though. I used to hate that phrase. I'd even react if someone said it. I was kind of lost before like that. About what I really wanted, my life goals, what I truly valued, what I really wanted for my life, what I actually liked. You know, I was kind of lost about that. I wasn't sure, but now I'm getting to know myself a lot more, understanding who I am and going to therapy. It affected every area of my life, man. It affected everything, whether it was my relationship with my family, my work, even on YouTube, you know, in my videos, I think you guys noticed. But this change in content also had to do with going to therapy. Obviously, I changed the content before, but I was in that process, you know, of doubt. Anyway, it changed every area of my life, every area. I'm telling you this with absolute certainty. That's how I do everything now. Even if my therapist said something 3 months ago, I still remember it. While doing something, I recall it and think, wow, now it makes sense. It's like in school when the girl you like asks you to get water at the fountain, but you say no. 5 years later, you regret it. I get it now. Therapy is exactly like that, man. Your mind starts to expand. Now, whether it's really worth doing therapy for 90 days, I don't know, man. Try it out for yourself.